Welcome everyone to Spiritual Healing Coach. Today we're counting down the 5 stages of spiritual abuse recovery. If you've ever left a church or faith environment and wondered, why do I feel like this now? This video is for you. As we move through each stage, gently notice which one you're in, not to judge yourself, but to understand your healing more clearly. 5. The awakening stage. Something isn't right. Number 5 is what many people don't recognize as recovery at all, because it doesn't start with clarity. It starts with discomfort. A quiet, unsettling sense that something in your faith environment no longer feels right, even if you can't fully explain why. At this stage, you may still trust the church, still respect the leadership, and still want to do the right thing spiritually, but your body begins sending signals your mind hasn't caught up to yet. You might feel anxious before services, tense around certain conversations, or emotionally drained after interactions that used to feel normal. This is often when people begin questioning themselves rather than the system. You may tell yourself you're overreacting, being too sensitive, or lacking faith. You might hear internalized messages like, "Don't question, don't doubt, trust authority," and so you push the feeling down. But the feeling doesn't disappear. It lingers. It grows. This stage isn't rebellion. It's awareness. And awareness often arrives quietly, because it has had to survive in an environment where questioning wasn't safe. If you're in this stage, you don't need answers yet. You don't need to confront anyone or make big decisions. Simply noticing that something feels off is enough for now. That awareness is not a betrayal of faith. It's often the very first step toward healing. For 4, the disorientation stage. Why do I feel worse now? Number 4 is often the most confusing stage of recovery. This is the moment when clarity begins to arrive, but instead of relief, you feel worse. You may finally recognize manipulation, control, or spiritual harm, yet your anxiety increases. Your grief deepens. Your sense of safety feels shaken. Many people panic in this stage because they assume healing should feel better, not harder. You might wonder, if I see the truth now, why am I falling apart? But this reaction is not failure. It's your nervous system responding to loss and uncertainty. In this stage, the structures that once organized your life begin to crumble. Beliefs, relationships, routines, and identities that once gave you meaning may no longer fit. You may feel untethered, exhausted, or emotionally raw. It's common to feel guilt for questioning, fear about the future, and grief for what you're losing, all at the same time. Disorientation happens because insight often arrives before safety. Your mind may understand what happened, but your body hasn't caught up yet. That gap can feel overwhelming. If this is where you are, nothing has gone wrong. You are not regressing. You are grieving the loss of certainty, belonging, and trust, and that is real loss. This stage doesn't require fixing or rushing. What you need most here is gentleness, stability, and permission to slow down. Feeling worse after awakening doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human, and healing has begun. 3. The grief and anger stage. What was taken from me? Number 3 is the stage many people were taught to fear. This is where grief and anger finally surface, sometimes quietly, sometimes all at once. You may begin to feel sadness for the version of yourself you were never allowed to be, or anger toward leaders, teachings, or systems that caused harm in the name of God. For many survivors, anger feels especially frightening. You may have been taught that anger is sinful, dangerous, or a sign of bitterness. So when it shows up, you might try to suppress it, or feel ashamed for having it at all. But anger in this stage is not a moral failure. It's a signal that a boundary was crossed. Grief also deepens here. You may grieve lost years, broken relationships, stolen trust, or the loss of a faith that once felt safe. This grief can be complicated because it's not just about what happened, it's about what should have happened and didn't. This stage is where many people begin to reclaim their emotional truth. You stop minimizing your experience. You stop excusing harm. You begin to recognize that what you endured mattered. If you're here, you don't need to resolve your anger or rush toward forgiveness. Anger and grief are not obstacles to healing. They are evidence that your inner voice is waking up. This stage is about honoring what was lost, so healing can move forward with honesty and self-respect. Number 2, the boundary and identity stage. Who am I without this? Number 2 is the stage where healing starts to feel more solid, but also more unfamiliar. After grief and anger, many people begin asking deeper questions about identity. If the church shaped your beliefs, choices, and sense of self, you may wonder who you are without its approval, rules, or expectations. This is where boundaries begin to form. You may start saying no to conversations, teachings, or relationships that no longer feel safe. You might pull back from people who pressure you to return, explain yourself, or minimize what you experienced. These boundaries aren't about punishment, they're about protection. At the same time, identity can feel fragile. You may notice gaps where certainty used to be. Old labels no longer fit, but new ones haven't formed yet. This in-between space can feel lonely, but it's also deeply important. It's where your values, needs, and voice begin to emerge on your own terms. This stage often includes relearning self-trust. Instead of asking, "What am I allowed to feel or believe?" you may start asking, "What feels true and safe for me?" If you're here, you're not losing yourself. You're meeting yourself. Boundaries and identity grow together, slowly and imperfectly. You don't need to have everything figured out. Choosing yourself, even in small ways, is a powerful step toward lasting healing. Number 1, the integration stage. I get to choose now. Number 1 is not about being fully healed or having everything resolved. It's about integration, learning how to live forward with what you've been through, without it defining or controlling you. In this stage, the pain no longer runs the show. The memories may still exist, but they're held with more compassion and less intensity. You begin to trust yourself again, not because you have all the answers, but because you know you can listen to your own inner wisdom. Choice becomes central here. You get to choose what spirituality looks like for you, if it exists at all. You get to choose which relationships feel safe. You get to choose rest, boundaries, curiosity, and joy, without fear of punishment or shame. For some, faith is rebuilt in new ways. For others, healing happens outside of religious spaces entirely. Integration honors both paths. There is no single right outcome, only what supports your well-being and wholeness. This stage often feels quieter than the others. There's less urgency, less proving, less explaining. Life begins to expand again, gently and honestly. If you're here, or moving toward here, know this. Healing didn't require you to become someone else. It required you to come back to yourself, and that, in itself, is a sacred act. If this video helped you name where you are or reminded you that your healing makes sense, you're not alone here. Support for this channel helps keep these conversations gentle, accessible, and available to others who are still finding their way. If you'd like to support Spiritual Healing Coach, you can do so at https://ko-fi.com/Spiritual Healing Coach. However you choose to engage, thank you for being here and for honoring your healing at your own pace.